Hi, I'm Michael Swinford. Welcome to this edition of the Veteran Voice. If you look around the set today, you may think we're filming a Paducah copy of Cops, but we're really not going to do that. And it also could be that they're come to catch up on my speeding tickets, and that isn't it either. But come right back and stay with us as you meet some very interesting gentlemen who have an amazing story to tell. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Veteran Voice. We have some very distinguished guests with us today. This is Mr. Brian Krueger, and your name, sir?
Steve Smith.
Steve Smith, and Tim?
Tim Reed.
You two gentlemen from the Paducah Police Department, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you're from the County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, sir.
Well, we're honored to have you with us today. Let's go back to the very beginning. When you were a young man, when did you get the idea that you might want to serve in the military? Tim?
I don't know exactly when it was. My dad says it's all I ever wanted to do, be in the military and be a police officer.
Mm-hmm. So you had this sort of ingrained in you at an early age?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Steve?
I'm a little different case. I grew up in the Army. Both my mother and father were in the Army, and moving from post to post,
mm-hmm.
and you know, I swore up and down I'd never join the military. And when I turned about 18 years old and started going to college, that's when I said, you know what, I need some help paying for college, and I want to try the military. Yeah. So I decided to join the military.
How many years were you serving?
I served 7.5 years.
7.5 years. What branch of the military were you in, Tim?
I did 6 years in the Marine Corps active duty, and I'm currently in the Army Reserves now.
Good. Brian?
I also spent some time in the Marine Corps, 4 years in active duty. I did a year in the reserves.
Okay, you don't tell me you're a Marine too.
No, sir. I was actually U.S. Army, Kentucky National Guard.
That's good. Well, I want you to know that we appreciate what you did. No matter how small your part was in your military career, how large it was, makes no difference. We deeply appreciate you guys stepping forward and carrying our nation's flag with pride and honor. And you know, we all veterans have at certain times in our life had to do things we didn't want to do, go places we didn't want to go, listen to crap we didn't want to listen to. But that's part of it. But we thank you for your effort and what you put into this. Tell me a little bit about your career, Brian. I mean, where are some of the places that you were?
I spent the first 2 years on active duty on the East Coast, serving at the Marine Barracks in Washington, D.C., and on the Presidential Security Detail at Camp David. And I finished my active duty career with 2nd Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment out of Camp Pendleton.
Now, did you have anything to do with the White House and the President and all that?
I didn't serve at the White House, but I did serve at Camp David, which is the presidential retreat.
Right. That must have been exciting for you.
Yeah, very exciting. It was a great experience. It really was.
Mm-hmm. Steve, where'd all you go in your military career?
Well, I was National Guard,
Yeah.
Kentucky Army National Guard, and I was based out of Shelbyville, Kentucky, with the 231st in my company, military intelligence. Before that, I was a Cav Scout. I joined as a cavalry scout.
Mm-hmm.
With the 231st in my company, we got the letter to proudly serve our country, and we went to Iraq when we were in Ramadi, Iraq, attached to the 2nd and 28th ID out of Pennsylvania. And then once getting back from Iraq, that's when I decided to focus on my career in the police department.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Tim?
I started with the Marine Corps and was assigned to Fox Company 2-4 there on the East Coast, and did my tour with the infantry for about 3 years, went around the world, seen many places. Re-enlisted and went to Parris Island, where I taught on the rifle range, taught recruits how to fire their rifle, and got out and started my career in law enforcement. And I've recently gone back into the Army Reserves, where I serve with 3rd Battalion, 398th here in Paducah. It's a drill sergeant unit.
What do you think about Iraq today? You've been there, seen that, done that, or heard about it, or been exposed to it in some way. What do you personally think about Iraq and Afghanistan?
Well, I personally have not been over there. I support not just our troops, but you've got to support your government because what we're doing, what our men and women over there are doing, are trying to make the world itself a better place. Just from some of the things I've heard, and Officer or Sergeant Smith can probably touch better on this because he's actually been there. But it's not an exotic retreat for these guys and gals over there, and but it's something that's got to be done.
Yeah. Steve, would you like to add to that about your opinions of what's going on in the world today?
I think it's necessary. I'd rather take the fight to them than them bring the fight to us and my family be in jeopardy, or the citizens of America. And the progression that we've come through in Iraq is tremendous. When I was there in 2005, Ramadi was considered the worst place to be. Matter of fact, I think to this day we've lost the most people as far as our brigade in the Iraq War. We lost over 90 men. But 2 years later, I'm here that Ramadi is one of the safest places, and that the tribal leaders are actually working with the coalition forces and making it a safe area. So to me, that means that the 90 brothers that paid the ultimate sacrifice, they did it for a reason, and it's showing now.
But knowing the history of Iraq and Afghanistan, I mean, they're sort of like Vietnam. They war after war after war. Do you honestly think that we can conquer this nations with the internal forces that we're training? I mean, do you ever think there'll be a time when these warlords always sit down with Americans or whoever and try to work out a deal where nobody gets killed in that, considering their long history of warfare?
There's change. You got to hope for change, and I think we're seeing that in Iraq. We're seeing it become a better a democracy setting in, and it's becoming a safer region.
Brian, you see any correlation between what's going on over there now and Vietnam?
From things that I've read and speaking with veterans of both wars, I think there's different viewpoints. I think you mentioned some correlation as far as the amount of time those countries in particular, have spent at war in some form or fashion, and some of the internal conflicts that they've gone through. But I would agree with Sergeant Smith that I think there has to be some effort because you simply don't know the answer. So without effort, without at least trying, it definitely wouldn't get any better.
Well, we can look back on Vietnam, and I was there and did my thing. And a couple things that were going on. Number one, the French had been there, the Japanese had been there, the Chinese had been there, we came in, and none of those four countries ever learned the lesson that when you're fighting for your home, you're going to fight 10 times harder than if it's just a cause or under the banner of your cause. And do you think that maybe we should have learned a lesson then and conducted our future warfare in a different way? What do you think?
Well, personally, I don't know if I have the level of expertise to comment on certain things, but in my opinion, based on things I've read, like I said, and studied over the years, there's a distinct difference from now and then. And that difference is terrorism, what it has progressed into, the fact that they have no reservations whatsoever to come to this country, perform the acts that they've performed in the past, and you can believe without any doubt whatsoever that they're currently planning to do something else in the future. And to me, that's a big difference.
Well, as I look back over Vietnam, there were a couple more things that come to mind. Number one, I got back from Vietnam in April this year, and it's a country at peace. It's a communist country, yes, but the average person on the street does not care where his bowl of rice comes from. As long as he can get a bowl of rice, he's pretty much happy. But what was a war-torn, dusty road type of cities and in the countryside in Vietnam has turned into a beautiful place where they used to have a 2-lane road with 6 bys going by like that and troops trying to go this way and that. It's a 6-lane highway today with a 15-foot center in the middle filled with flowers. So you'd have to say, except for one reason, that Vietnam is better off. I mean, they really are. But the only thing they lack is freedom. And it's going to blow up. It's going to happen over there someday, because people can have all these VCRs and whatnot, but I want freedom. And that's the cry I heard from the people I talked to, that, yeah, this is nice, we can eat better, and we have maybe get us a new bicycle or something, whatever the situation, but we don't have freedom. And I think that's the underlying cause for everything America should do, is to fight for freedom regardless of where it is. Because if we don't fight for that, we really fight for nothing. And we have our children, our grandchildren. Well, what happened when you got out of the military? Did you have a specific goal set for yourself, or?
For me, it was getting involved in law enforcement. That's always been a dream of mine. Law enforcement, SWAT team, tactics, and I've been able to fortunately accomplish that, and continue to further my career.
So, what about Homeland Security today? Has that affected your job or the way you do your job, or how has it changed since we become so alert to terrorists?
Well, I can tell you just from what I've seen in the past few years, as I've gained rank and been served in different positions within the police department, there's a much more emphasis placed on things pertaining to terrorism, anti-terrorism, homeland security issues, and things of that nature, whether it be intelligence or information shared between local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, training that is currently being conducted between those same entities, and a general focus overall.
Do you think we're getting paranoid as a country? Do you think, I noticed the other day some idiot went through the wrong way at one of the terminals, and it shut the whole airport down for 3 hours. Are we getting to the point where we are absolutely walking on eggs?
We are walking on eggshells, but it's a necessary thing because as soon as we let our guard down, that's what Al Qaeda is looking for, and that's the opening they're going to use to attack us on our homeland.
Well, it seems to me they don't have anything but time to sit around and plan this. And I mean, if they lose 100 warriors, so be it. There's 100 more over the hill, and that's got to be tough to win in a situation like that. But one little guy, if he can shut down the airport, if you got 100 running loose at the same time, this old country would be chaotic and very disturbing, and people would just literally be scared to death. Which that would come into the Second Amendment, right to bear arms. I don't know exactly which one it is. But I think a lot of people are looking at that and say, I need weapons in my home today to protect myself in case one of these idiots gets loose. Now that may be a little bit overreaction, but yet I think people go back to the pioneer spirit. We took care of our families back then, and we're going to take care of them today, regardless of what anybody else thinks. But how has your job changed locally concerning this subject of Homeland Security? Do you have to do things now that you previously didn't have to do?
Well, I think one thing that we've seen is, you mentioned general society members. I think you've seen an increase in vigilance overall. There's more reporting of suspicious activity, what people deem to be suspicious activity. And the majority of the time it does turn out to be nothing. But me personally, I'd rather them contact us and at least let us check out what they think is suspicious than let something pass and miss something. And as far as from an operational perspective, like I said, we place a lot of emphasis on specialty type training, SWAT team, response to active shooter situations, bomb disposal, IED disposal. Sergeant Smith's a member of the bomb squad. He could probably comment on some of those things.
Do you think that America is safe today? Do you think we could call ourselves a safe country?
I think we can, and a lot of that is through the military and the law enforcement agencies, the stepping up to the plate and stepping up to defense. granted, there's always going to be times where we might miss one or two,
Right.
and there's going to be situations where there's going to be acts of terrorism and violence on our nation. But overall, I can go down the street and not worry about something happening to me.
It's kind of strange. You were talking about people becoming more sensitive to what's going on around them. Going back to Vietnam for a moment, the blocks are laid out, but you have one person from the Communist Party that lives there and also keeps track of what's going on. Now, how do you relate that with our increased security in America and the fact that they're a communist country and they have the same system? We're watching out for and the Vietnamese people are watching out for the neighbors, make sure, everything's right, and if something isn't right, they go tell on them. But do you see any correlation between all of that?
I think the most significant difference is obviously civil liberties that we enjoy as a people in this country, the protection that is afforded to everybody under the Constitution.
We did a show not too long ago about the degradation of our rights. We had a pastor on and we had a couple of men from some other line of work, and we talked about how our rights have been eroded over the years, very subtle at times. And we were basically here to discuss a monument out in Arizona somewhere. They wanted to put up, or this monument's been up for 100 years or something, and hardly anybody goes out there. It's in the middle of the desert. But some guy in California filed a lawsuit, said, if I go by that, I'm going to be offended. He's never seen it, don't know anything about it. But stuff like that is scary too, and I'm afraid there may be some tying in together of being aware, but yet you got to be careful that you're not too aware. And you guys have a tough job, let me tell you, because you have to make snap decisions out there. It's life or death situations, and it's very difficult for us as civilians to understand what you guys go through. But we do appreciate you. I mean, we can go to sleep at night knowing somebody like you or you yourself are out there patrolling and trying to take care of business. It makes me sleep well because I know you guys can handle it. I'm not worried about that. But so you came into the military and then you decided you was going to join the police force. Does the military training help you in your job?
I think it does. It's the police department or law enforcement agencies in general, and even the sheriff's department, that we're a paramilitary organization, and we got the structure of rank and how the leadership goes. I think my military training, by far helped me in my career through development, just maturity, and then leadership as well.
Well, isn't the most important word discipline? That would carry forward from
Yes,
the
sir.
military, because in the military you were well disciplined, and you have to be well disciplined out here. You can't just go crazy because it don't work. And we hear so much about policemen that are put into situations, they're outnumbered, outgunned, and the whole bit, but they do prevail. It may take more than 2 or 3 or 4, but ultimately you guys are going to get the job done. And I don't worry too much about that. What do you remember about your military career that really stands out in your mind as kind of a focal point for you being a policeman? When you were in the military, did you just think you was going to come out and join the police just to keep things going, or just to try it, or what was your motivation?
Like Tim said earlier, growing up as a young man, I had family members that were veterans that had significant impact on me. I don't remember at what age it was, but I always knew I was going to go into the military at some point in time. And I know it sounds very cliche, but as a child, I always wanted to be a police officer. So for me, the military was a stepping stone. It was a way to prepare myself, mentally, physically. Just like Sergeant Smith said, it allowed me to develop in areas, travel, experience people of different cultures, and just make me a more well-rounded person in general.
Yeah. Well, I had the good fortune of meeting your new chief not long ago. Seems like a wonderful man, and we had a great talk. I'm happy I had the chance to meet him. We want to put in a good word for the chief because he's got to take care of all you guys.
That's right.
What do you think the future of policing is? I mean, what do you see in the future, technology-wise maybe, that will make you a better cop on the street? What do you see ahead?
Well, I see a lot of the electronics. I mean, the computer age is just overwhelming us. It really is making our job easier. For us locally, it's being able to exchange information. If Sergeant Smith is working and I've got something out in the county and I think it's heading in, I can merely send him a message on the computer if I know what area he's in, and say, hey, let your guys know to be watching for this vehicle, or maybe we've got a situation that could bleed into the city.
Well, aren't you able to identify felons or whatever quicker now that you don't have to put the picture up on the wall and hopefully that somebody will see it? You guys can disseminate the information to the media now. And speaking of the media, we had a hard time with the media in Vietnam. We really did. I know there was a specific incident where there was like 500 Viet Cong got killed. Well, Time magazine said it was 1,000. There were 14 Americans got killed. They said it was only 4. So there's always been this media problem, and it's in law enforcement too. You guys have to be media stars at times like you are today. I'll probably never get you back for another show, but you are, because the whole world is watching you, and you have to be careful on what you say and what you do. And you are held to a higher standard, not only in we respect you, but we trust you. And we have to have that, because if we don't trust you, we have nobody to trust. And so you guys are doing something that's special to the whole civilian population. What do you see yourself doing in the next 20 years?
I personally probably not be doing much different than what I am. I truly do love what I'm doing. I love law enforcement. I love the camaraderie, even from the different agencies. I've worked with these two gentlemen in the past, and there really is a brotherhood out there, a sisterhood with our female officers. And as for the military, I'm going to finish out my 20 years and probably do a little more.
Well, a lot of people retired in the last few years. You're all a little young for that. You got some great many years on the force to go. And I hope it continues to be fun for you, because I've always heard that if you have a job and it's fun, it makes it a lot easier than just going to drudge into work every day and somebody on you all the time. That's hard to do your job. But I see you all with the computers in your hand. You know, you'll be able to punch it on your hand and you'll be there in a heartbeat. I don't know if we got to the point yet we're going to have space cars or anything like that, but who knows? I mean, we're advancing in technology so quickly. What about the newer type of weapons that you all are able to use now? Have they changed considerably from what they used to have?
Well, I think you've seen an increase in what some people would deem military type weapons in use with special teams such as SWAT and things of that nature. But again, other things have changed that have caused us to have to respond in that manner, or at least be prepared to respond. And of course, the Hollywood bank robbery shootout in the mid-'90s was a great example of that, where the police were underarmed, and as a result, not prepared to effectively deal with that as well as they could have. Prime example of an advancement in technology that we utilize today with our agency are tasers. What has been deemed an intermediate, less lethal weapon, something that was first introduced a few years ago, but of course has advanced and improved into what it is today. A very effective way to deal with certain situations.
So you guys carry those as regular routine now, or?
As a matter of fact, we just purchased enough to arm every patrol officer with one. Sergeant Smith's wearing one right now.
Well, I'll try to behave then.
Yeah.
I'll try to live a pretty good life. But you're not someone to be feared. You're someone, you're like the good angel, you know. Come run to me, I'll put my arms around you and I'll take care of what is out there bothering you. And I've never saw a policeman as somebody that I should get mad at for writing me a ticket or whatever. But that could change as I get older, I don't know. I saw an old man the other night and he was just giving the policeman heck. I mean, he must have been 80 and he was just mattering away at him. But he finally obeyed. I guess that taser had some effect on it, I don't know. But, so, Well, I thank you all for being here with us today. We've had a good time, and we may do it again sometime as the law enforcement aspect changes or as the military's effect on you changes. And we do appreciate you. We appreciate what you do out there, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.